for her. Yeah, and I'm just excited to be shearing other than in the spring. These sheep, you know, with hand shearing, you can leave as much length on their body as you want. And so I'll leave whatever she said she wants on there so they won't be cold. And they've got a barn and everything, so they're well taken care of. I just sheared 14 border Leicester lambs. It's been 2 weeks ago now for a friend of mine in Bourbon. So I've done more fall shearing this year than I've ever done, and it's kind of nice because usually after I'm finished shearing in the spring, I have like a withdrawal period where I'm so sad that I don't have any more sheep to shear, because I really do love it that much. I don't know why, I just do. So there's my trusty stand in the back. I can't and nor would I try to do this shearing without that thing. I really, really like it. Excuse me. Anyway, so I've got about an hour and 45-minute drive to get there. I've left Stillville and headed towards Berryman now on Highway 8. And it's beautiful this early in the morning, except for the sun right in your face. That's no fun, but it's cool, crisp morning. One of my favorite times of the year. I mean, it is my favorite time of the year. I was born in November, so I always attribute it to that, loving the fall. Winter not so much, but I do love the fall. Fall and spring, favorite time of the year. So the weather today, I think, is supposed to be high, like 62, something like that, and sunny, which is perfection as far as I'm concerned. And shearing sheep, it's like heaven on earth. Perfect weather and getting to shear sheep in it. Woohoo! Best day ever! SpongeBob reference. Anyway, alright, I think I'll take some video of the travel just to put in here to add some interest so you guys can see what my part of the country is like. And I hope everybody's having a good day. If any of you guys do shearing in the fall, let me know. I'd like to hear, you know, why and when and everything about it. driving. My grandma was driving. My grouchy grandma. She was not grouchy, but she insisted on being called grouchy grandma. She's very funny. And she had on 105.3, which is our country music station in this area, KZNN. And a song came on. I don't remember the song, but I really like to sing, although I didn't think I sang very well. And so I started singing, and then I realized that, you know, she could hear me. So we were in a little old, what was that, it was the 1980s. I think it was an 86 or something, little red Ford Ranger that she owned. And it was a small truck, so obviously she could hear me. It was a fancy house. Anyway, I was singing some country song that came on, and then I, you know, became aware of what I was doing and then quieted down, and she says, "Why did you stop singing?" And I said, "Well, I don't sing that good, Grandma." And she said, "Oh, you sing beautifully." She said, "I'd love to hear you sing." I said, "No, because she said she loved it so much." So it really boosted my confidence, and I won't ever forget that, because there was a lot of times after that I would think, oh, these people don't want to hear me singing, and actually it gave me the confidence to not really care, as long as I wasn't being horrendous, you know, or annoying. I just sang, and I still do, and I know I'm not the best singer, but my sweet loving grandma, or grouchy grandma, decided, or you know, encouraged me, and it stuck with me all these years. Shoot, I think I was probably 15. It's a neat old church. 16 years old. Anyway, she was crippled. My grandma was. She couldn't walk on her own. She couldn't feel anything from the waist down, so she walked with those old hand crutches. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but some of you probably do. You know, kind of stilted along with them and drug her feet. And she called them her dumb legs because they didn't work right. I watched her pick them up. She'd grab the hem of her pants and pick them up, put them up on her knee across her leg, and stuff like that. But she was a worker. I don't care how crippled she was, and I have drawn a lot of inspiration from her over the years. She would get her own wood in. I don't even know how she accomplished that, and feed a fire through the winter. She would wash dishes. She would sweep the floor. She would do laundry. You know, all while being crippled and using those crutches. You know, she'd drag things and hang things over her shoulders and her neck and over her hands on those crutches. And I've said to myself many times, you know, when I'm looking at something and I'm aggravated because I think it's too hard, or I'm being lazy and I don't want to do it, I think to myself, Grouch did it, you know, and she didn't complain. She just did it. And how in the world can I justify complaining when she couldn't or didn't? She was one in a million, of course. Isn't everybody's grandma's, though? She loved the CB radio, and she had a lot of friends all over the world, Barbados, England. She talked, you know, to people in Australia, all over the place. And her handle for the CB was Old Buzzard. And I thought that was weird way back when, but it's kind of, you know, sentimental now when I think about that. I remember hearing her talk to those people, and they had those foreign accents, and I thought it was the most awesome thing I'd ever heard, that she was talking to people like that. And in fact, that is how she met Dale and Nina McPherson, which Nina became my, I don't know, how should I describe her? My mentor. She was like a mother to me. She was like a grandma. She was a friend, and she taught me many things about farming. I talked about her in another video, that she taught me a lot of things to do and a lot of things not to do. You know, she was born in the late 20s, I think, or 1930, and anyway, she knew a lot about a lot, especially farming with horses and working hard. But anyway, so that's how Grandma met them, and ironically, they were only, what were they, 8, 9, 10 10 miles apart. You know, they both lived in Cherryville. And Dale's CB handle was Milkman. Now, Nina didn't talk on the radio that much, but Grandma became friends with Dale, and once they figured out they lived close to one another, they became friends, you know, in real life. They'd visit each other and stuff. My grandpa really liked Dale and Nina. Anyway, it's funny how things come together like that. And then Grouchy introduced me to Nina when I was 15, I guess it was, after Dad died. I was grieving my father's death so bad that, you know, I just couldn't hardly function. And Grouch knew that I loved horses and loved being outside. And, you know, we didn't live on a farm growing up where I was at. We had 8 acres. You know, that was a farm to me, but we had chickens and a horse and stuff, but that was it. Dogs, cats. But Nina had 32 horses when I met her. 32, and most of them were spotted. She loved spotted horses, as do I. Peacocks, chickens, geese, ducks, pigs, miniature pigs, potbellies, sheep, goats. Oh my gosh, so many goats. Dale loved goats. He showed them for many years. Milk goats, rabbits, horses, cattle, mules. I mean, she had everything. I can't even think of an animal that she didn't have. Rheas. Oh my gosh, those things are huge and scary. Anyway, so I learned a lot about a lot of animals helping her. So one of the advantages of being homeschooled is that, you know, you can, your life is flexible. You can do what I did. And so we lived in Bonne Terre, which is about an hour and a half away from Cherryville. And my stepdad at the time, he worked in Cuba at the City of Cuba Electric Department. So he had to drive down through Stillville every day to go to work. So after being introduced to Nina, spending some time with my grandma in Cherryville and being introduced to her, I wanted to spend more time with her, you know. And it's all counted as learning because, listen, I was getting some hands-on, hard work, calluses, and blister-making lessons from this woman. I mean, once she figured out I was eager, she put me to work. So I would ride down with him, and they'd pick me up in Stillville, and I'd spend a week sometimes, 2 weeks sometimes with her. With them, I should say. Dale was alive at the time. And work, basically. I mean, we worked all day long. Picking up walnuts this time of the year, it's a little past time now, but oh my word, people, you don't know how many green walnuts I picked up. The smell brings that all back, and I'm telling you, I don't ever want to pick up another bag of walnuts, ever. But we, you know, we took them to sell them. I mean, truck bed loads of these things and made some money. I mean, I never made much money, but Nina made a little extra money. And I don't know, hook up the horses in the wagon. We'd go to the back 40 and check the cows and haul back salt and supplements for them. And then, you know, in the wintertime, we'd haul hay with the wagon. Anyway, it was an awesome experience that I would not trade for anything in the whole world. I loved being with her. I mean, there were times that she drove me bonkers and I couldn't wait to go home for a while, but in retrospect, I loved being there. Dale was a house cat. He done the cooking and the cleaning and the wash and all that, and Nina did everything outside. I mean, he'd go out and milk his goats, that kind of thing, but he mainly was a house cat, and he loved my sister because Barb was more, you know, prone to being in the house than outside doing work, so he and Barb hit it off really well. And he'd always tell me, I just don't like you. You're just too much like Nina. Nina Jr. He'd call me Nina Jr. It didn't make me sad, you know. I loved her, so it didn't mind being called that. Anyway, and if people say today, and I've had people do this that knew her, and they'll say to me, well, you know, she rubbed off on you. You're an awful lot like Nina. I take that as a compliment. Although she was a very hard to deal with, hateful person at times. I don't care. You know, I take it as a compliment. She died last year, April 10th. It was so sad. Of course, I miss her. And that's why it's important to spend as much time with people as you can. That's why I've said to many people, I will never be rich. I don't do something just for the money. You know, I could have had a way better paying job, done way more things to make more money by this point in my life, but I would have got to spend less time with people that I love. You know, doing the job now, I have some flexibility, being off on Fridays, like going to shear today on a Friday. I've gone with my brother on some of his routes as a tow truck driver. I've taken off work to go to doctor's appointments with my sister and my mom and my kids, and I don't regret any of it. Money cannot replace time. Time is priceless. Although we get paid for our time and never enough in most everything we do, I just have decided that time with loved ones is way more valuable to me than money. So yes, I will never be rich, but I've got so many memories, you know, so many things to look back on, and I'm a sentimental person. I mean, if you haven't figured that out, you will. I do think back on things all the time. Times with Nina, times with Grouch, you know, times with my dad. And I think it's a good thing. I feel very fulfilled in my life, having all these memories and experiences and times together with people I care about. So anyway, it's a nice little trip down memory lane. I have to cut the heat down in here. I'm getting warm. Just hang on a minute. Stay with me. You're not tipping. You're not tipping. You're fine. I get a little goofy sometimes. Traveling alone. I wish so much that Lori was here with me. We used to travel around and shear together. I told her to just fly in from Arizona last night and she could go with me and spend some time at Sherrill's. I mean, we are the Three Musketeers. The Sheepy Sisters. We love spending time together, but unfortunately she couldn't make it work out, you know. Plus, I hesitate to say this openly in a public forum, but if she got back here, I'd be really hard-pressed to let her go back to Arizona anytime soon. I miss seeing her in July. But it's going to be nice to visit with Sheryl. I mean, Sheryl will have to do. We're almost into Potosi. Cross this bridge and go around this corner and we'll be in Potosi. So if none of you have ever seen it, you will today. At least part of it. You know, Liberty, I met her this morning. She'd stayed at my mom's last night. Now that she's independent with a car and a job and school, she stayed at my mom's last night and got up or got herself ready for school and was going to be early, which is great. I met her before I left and gave her a donut and gave her a kiss and told her I loved her and wished she was going with me. She doesn't enjoy shearing like I do, but she's good at it. And she's a really big help. And I don't know, like I said, so I try to spend as much time with people as I love as I can, and her sharing with me is something that makes me extremely happy. And I told her, I said, I really wish you were going with me this morning. She said, I know, I wish I was going too. And I said, you are just saying that because you don't want to go to school. Yeah. That's alright. It don't hurt my feelings any. But off to school she went. So here it is, Potosi. Growing up, this is a neighboring town. I mean, it's a little bit of a distance from where we lived, but not terribly far. We didn't come to Potosi a lot. We went to Bonne Terre or Flat River, now called Park Hills, or Deloge, or Farmington more often than Potosi. There's the police place. This is the courthouse over here. Coming up to the four-way. Pretty church. People doing some work. Antique store. I've been in there. It's really cool. All the police departments down there. That other building, I've seen police around it a lot though, so I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's a cool little building. This used to be a dealership. They've moved, and this is a smaller, like, used car sales. The library. Very, very nice library. Funeral home. Tire place. Bought tires there before. Gas station that's closed. Been closed for a long time. Oh goodness. I'm gonna be late. I told her I'd try to be there about 9 and it's 8:20 right now, so I'm definitely running behind. I visited a little bit too long with Liberty, but I think Karen will understand. She'll be understanding. She has a Facebook page as well, if y'all want to check it out. Little River Farm People, I believe is the name of it. She does some awesome things there. Grows flowers that you can come and cut, fresh flowers. They have little markets, you know, where people can come and sell their goods that they make. And she does, you can do pictures there, take pictures there. I think she does workshops as well. I'm not sure what kind, but she's very crafty. Makes soaps and lotions and beautiful cowls and scarves and that kind of thing. Very crafty. Coming up to the four-way here. Hardy's over here on the right. So, I have a story about this four-way. So, coming from this direction, that's Highway 21, coming from Caledonia. And then if you go up that way, that goes out towards DeSoto, and then the back way into my old home place. Anyway, so we were coming from Caledonia up this way, and I was riding with my dad. He drove a semi when I was young. I can't remember what company he was with at that time. I think it was Best Trucking, which is out of Bonne Terre. Well, anyway, we were coming down through here, and the light turned red, and he went to put on his brakes, and he couldn't get stopped. We were loaded. He hauled lumber and treated posts and that kind of thing at the time. It was a flatbed truck, a big semi. Anyway, and he says, "Hang on, Liv. We're not going to make a stop here. We're going to keep going through it." And there was traffic, you know, waiting to go and everything. And he laid on his horn and tried to slow down best he could, but it wouldn't stop here at the stoplight. And we rolled right through that stoplight. And there's an incline there on the left headed towards DeSoto. And it rolled to a stop up there. And he got it, you know, halted somehow. And we had to get it fixed. But that was the scariest thing. Oh, it was so scary. So scary. Oh, I'm speeding. There we go. No, I'm not speeding. Anyway, and he was so mad because his brakes had acted up and, I don't know, busted a line or something. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I was scared. It was, gut-wrenching for sure. Had some adventures with my dad. Again, being homeschooled, that was great for that. I went to school 2 weeks into 5th grade, and then Barb went 2 weeks into 4th grade. And Hack wasn't born yet, so Hack never went to a public school. But Barb and I did for a short while. Anyway. I don't know what you're doing there, but it's ongoing. Blinking yellow. Anyway, so I'd go with him when he would drive his semi-truck. And I went to Arkansas, and I've been to, you know, Illinois with him, and lots of places. I love traveling with him. One of my favorite things to do. I'd ask him the night before, I'd say, "Daddy, can I go with you tomorrow?" And he'd either say yes or no. It wasn't always yes. Excuse me. And if he said yes, I couldn't hardly sleep. I'd be so excited. We'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, whatever time he got up, you know, he'd get me up, or a lot of times I'd beat him, and I'd be up and ready to go so he wouldn't, you know, leave me because I was taking too long to get ready. We'd get to town, and it's still dark, warm up his truck, he'd do his pre-trip and all that stuff, and we'd load up and go, and he had it was darker than tan. It was brown color. truckers would get on there and they'd say cuss words, and he'd say, "Hey, I've got my daughter here with me. You all don't talk like that." But the hilarious thing is that he would cuss, and he tried so hard not to. He really did, but he failed every day at it. It's so funny. Anyway, he had a lot of friends on the radio, and he'd tell you, "I don't have very many friends. I've got a lot of acquaintances, but not very many friends." Well, at his funeral, the funeral home was packed. There was no room left for people to get in. They told my mom that that was one of the biggest funerals they had ever had up to that point, and that was in, was it 1992? Anyway, my dad did have a lot of friends. A lot of people cared about him. He was a horse's ass. Let's not, sugarcoat anything. He was such a pain to deal with, but when he said he was going to do something, he'd do it. He meant what he said. He was a giving person. If he had it and you needed it, he'd give it to you. I remember him giving a car to at least one person. We weren't rich by any stretch of the means. We were poor. But these people, they were some people my mom worked with at a job, and they were desperate for a vehicle so the husband could get to work. And he just gave them a car we had. Old, what was that called? A LeBaron wagon or something. Had wood paneling on it. It was a big thing, but it ran, and it got that guy to work. And they were very grateful for that. He was good-hearted, my dad was. Anyway, had a rough exterior, but he was a good person. Oh man, a garage sale. I sure love a garage sale. I haven't been to one in a while, or a yard sale. Anyway. Okay, guys. We are on our way to Park Hills, and then down to Farmington, and down around to Fredericktown. So I will do a little bit more video, and once the scenery changes here in a little bit. What a beautiful day. Gorgeous day. How much of the colors you can see, but the trees are turning, the leaves are turning. Gorgeous. This time of year is a feast for the eyes, for sure. I love the sycamores. See the orange and yellow and golds. Sycamore trees. Maples as well. Yellows and greens and reds and oranges. I really wish I had more maple trees where I live. We are almost to Park Hills. Hills says it's 8,759 people. We're gonna go through the old downtown part just for you guys, in case anybody was ever wanting to see it. I usually go through the cut through, which is over through the glass factory industrial area. It's a little faster to get over to Highway 67 to go down to Farmington, but I'll go through here this time. This here place, see this great big brick building up there? Yeah. It's called the St. Francis County Health Center. That is where Mama used to take us and we'd get shots. And I remember every time we'd go there, I'd be like, oh, Mom, what are these shots? I'd throw such a fit. I don't know. I don't think I was ever afraid of needles. I just didn't like the pain, you know? I don't know anybody that likes shots. I mean, that'd be kind of weird if you do. Hey, if you do, that's cool. I just, I never did. It's not so bad now. Shoot, I've had so many things poke me after being pregnant with kids and everything. It doesn't really faze me at all. I can watch them do it. Don't bother me at all. But anyway, that used to be the shot getting place. So this is a little bit like, you know, memory lane for me. I have a great uncle and great aunt that live over here, Uncle Bill and Aunt Effie, cousin Mark. Little residential area. It's really pretty. Lots of houses. Neat houses, I think. A lot of them are. Down here is Thompson. I believe it's Thompson Photography, and that's where we had our homeschool group pictures taken. Get all dressed up for that. And the sign's still hanging there. It's old, but it's there. That's the photography place. And we'd go across the street there and get all of us together in a big group and take our picture. Kind of like a class photo, like they do in school. The old railway area here. Business 32, it says. Old buildings. Right here's the old theater. It's still a theater, it looks like, right by the Purlin Flower Girl place. I've seen a few movies in there when I was way younger. And then Old Mine House Bar and Grill. It's a good place to eat. It's been in there. First truck came from. It was sitting there for sale. $900. Old 1978 Ford F-150. Mom bought for me. It was white with a dark blue stripe down the middle. And that sucker would burn some tires. It also burned some oil. It would definitely burn tires. All the stuff we do when we're younger. Turn this way and go on 32 business. Farmington, here we come. Is the Missouri Mine State Historic Site and Museum. It is a really neat place. I don't know if you can see that. It is a humongous place. You should look it up. mix of homeschooling. Mom bought workbooks for us to do, and then we was a part of, I think it was called Christian Academy or something. It was an online learning, and they'd send us certain materials. I don't even remember what it is now, but we'd do testing and send it into them, and they'd, you know, mail us back the results. And at one point we had an old home computer, and we'd do some things on it back in the old days when computers are like, you know, not what they are today. Anyway, it evidently worked out because I was smart enough to pass that graduation equivalency degree, or whatever it is, GED. I still have it. I found it the other day. No, I don't remember what the score said because I didn't even think about trying to remember it. I passed. That's all that matters to me. I passed it. I was your homeschool kid that got up, you know, got my homework or my work going so I could get it done, finished it as fast as I could, ran outside, grabbed my horse, and was on her the rest of the day. I would disappear and be gone for hours and hours. My sister, God love her, she was the homeschool child that drug her feet, and it took her all day long, 8 hours a day, to do her homework, or her schoolwork, whatever you want to call it, because she didn't want to do it. It drove me crazy. A lot of times I'd take my workbooks and I'd go out and catch my horse and put her in her barn stall, and I would turn around on her, face her hind end, put my books up on her hind end, and do my work sitting on my horse backwards. She'd just sit there eating hay or resting or whatever. When she'd cock her, you know how they'll cock their back leg and like lean to rest, I'd have to readjust so I could write in my book. But that old mare's name was Princess, and Dad got her for me when I was 8 years old. She had goop in her eyes, and her feet were overgrown, and she looked bad. I mean, looking back now, I thought she was the best thing I ever seen when he gave her to me, but looking back now, she was in rough shape. Burrs all in her hair. Dad told me he paid $175 for her, which was a lot of money for us. He hauled her home in the back of a pickup truck with my brother holding onto a halter and lead rope, without any kind of sides on it. He was just holding her. I don't even know how he did that. He drove probably 20 miles home with her like that. It was, it was insanity, to be totally honest, but he pulled it off. We're almost to Farmington. Don't know if you saw the sign. 18 miles from Fredericktown, so we'll be there soon. But it's just nuts. Got home, and he tied her on a long rope because we didn't have fencing at the time. There's the old Farmington sale barn. I've bought and sold some horses in there through the years. A long time ago. I don't do that anymore, really. But anyway, he tied her on a really long rope. The thing was probably 30 feet long or whatever, so she could graze throughout the day, you know, but not leave the place. It was only 8 acres, wasn't very big, so it took her a little while to get used to that. She'd tangle her legs up, and it wasn't pretty at first, but she finally figured it out. And he would take and set me up on her, no bridle, no halter, you know, on her so I could hold it or nothing. He'd just set me up there, and he said, "Here, get used to it." And I was so scared at first sometimes if she'd take the littlest, you know, misstep, like she was eating and she'd trip on that rope, and I would just, you know, throw myself off of her and be bawling and crying because I was scared. You know, I really loved the horses and wanted one and everything, but I was scared to death. And I'd go crying to the house, and Dad would come out here or come outside, and he'd say, "What happened?" And I'd tell him, and he'd say, "She didn't throw you off. Get back on there." And he'd put me up there, and she wouldn't do nothing. He'd walk off and leave me again, and, you know, an hour or so later, I'd do the same thing again. And so he got tired of that, and he went out and he spanked that horse with a switch like she was a kid. And I cried and cried and cried because I told him, I said, "Dad, she didn't really throw me off." Hang on, I'm going to pause for this stuff here. I don't know what's happening, but something is very bad down there. Very bad accident. I'm sorry about that. We'll take a little detour here. I know how to get around here, so make sure everybody's paying attention. Okay. Anyway, this is by the Rural King and Hobby Lobby they put in down here. He spanked her, and I felt so horrible that I had caused that horse to get a spanking for nothing. She didn't do anything wrong. And I cried and screamed. I told him, no, I'm lying. She didn't throw me off. I was scared and I jumped off. And then he spanked me. And he put me back up on there and he said, don't you come off of her till I come out here and get you, you know, and I stayed on her. I was on there for hours, Dad. He took his time coming to get me. I'll tell you, he didn't rush by any sense of the word. Oh, my poor old horse. I got her spanked. It was so terrible. I can't believe I was such an awful person to her. I mean, I did do the right thing, I confessed. Now I gotta remember what road it is down here I need to get on to get around all that. I think Maple Valley Drive. Will this take me where I want to go? We're gonna try it. And he is turning, so I'm gonna go. Alright. Hang on here. Anyway. So, after I got over the fear, you know, of getting bucked off or falling off or whatever I was afraid of, the unknown, that's what it was. Just like any kid, you know, you're so excited for something, but then it happens and you're afraid of it. So, after I got over that, you couldn't keep me off that horse. In fact, Princess would run and run and run from me, would not let me catch her once Dad had gotten fence up and, you know, she could run free on the farm. She worked. She made me work to catch her. I'm telling you, I spent hours sometimes chasing that horse. Even grain didn't work. You know, she'd come and get a bite and she'd take off. She was smart. We had decided all those years ago that she was a POA pony. I don't know if that's true or not. She was not a full-grown horse. She was probably, was she 13 and a half, 14 hands or something, you know. Right size for me as a kid, but the older I got, I outgrew her, but she was a wicked old witch. She'd just run. And then my stupid cousin Becky would come over there. And I call her stupid because I'd get so mad that Princess would let her catch her. But she wouldn't let me catch her. And I'd get mad at Becky because Becky'd say, I want to ride your horse. And I said, I can't catch her. And she'd go out there and catch her. And oh, Lord have mercy, that'd just light me on fire. And Regina was another one. She'd come out there and, I want to ride her. And no, I can't catch her. And then she'd go out there and Princess would stand there and let her pet her and everything. Oh, it's just an unreal horse. I'm telling you, and I've said this to so many people that will listen. A horse is so good for a person, but for a kid, you know, in general. They will teach you things that no other animal can teach you. I mean, yes, dogs are great, and, you know, cats and everything. All animals are wonderful. I love them. They're all a great thing that God created. But horses, they'll teach you some stuff. That old mare taught me how to be angry. Righteously angry. Ah, shoot. Anyway, I had her until after my dad died. Sorry about that. I had gotten too big for her, and I felt bad riding her, and I had run her to death, the poor old nag. I think she was 16 when I sold her. Let's see if I can get back on the interstate here. Or the road. I don't think this is exactly an interstate. Anyway, I sold her to a girl that I'd gone to school with, Heather was her name, and I saved my money and worked with my Uncle Dub. That's a family center down here in Farmington. I've been there a lot. That's where I first fell in love with, you know, horse with my mom's brother, Daryl. We call him Uncle Dub. And he found this sorrel quarter horse mare named Gypsy. And I wanted her so bad I could taste it. So he finagled and worked out this deal with this fella. He was supposed to be painting a horse trailer and doing some other work for this guy. And he made this deal that if I'd help him paint that horse trailer, we had to sand the whole thing down and then repaint it, you know, pay for the paint and all that stuff. If I'd do that and pay for that stuff, that I would get that horse in trade. Because the guy that owned her didn't like her because he couldn't catch her. She hated him. In fact, she really didn't even like men at all, to be honest. Gypsy was a woman's horse. And she had been in with the stallion. He was a registered quarter horse stallion, black. It was a black bay. He had brown points in his flanks and that sort of thing. But he had Poco Bueno in his bloodline. Beautiful, big old stallion. Oh, he was gorgeous. She was in with him for 4 months, and she had had a little sorrel stud colt out of him previously. And this guy told my Uncle Dub, he said, she's not bred. You know, and he said, that's okay, we don't care. We don't need her to be bred. But he told me, he said, Lib, that guy's so full of garbage, you don't know what he's talking about. That horse is bred. I said, you really think? And he said, oh yeah, I bet you she is. Well, at that point, I had been walking up to her, and she was coming to me and let me feed her grass and scratch her and stuff. I didn't care if she was pregnant or not. I wanted that horse. Long story short, we did the deal, got the horse, took her home. Shoot, we even used his horse trailer that we painted to haul her home in. Uncle Dub was great, man. He could wheel and deal like nobody I've ever seen. Anyway, got her home, and I love that horse. I loved her. And then had a vet come out and check her, and sure enough, she was pregnant. And she had a filly. May 2nd was when she was born. I watched this mare and followed this mare every day, hoping and praying that she'd have that baby. And it seems like I'd given up hope and quit watching. And then one day I went outside late in the morning, out on play. It was like, you know, it was 8 or 9 in the morning, something like that. And I went down the little hillside and checked her, and there I seen 4 little legs on the other side of Gypsy, and they weren't Gypsy's. And I screamed out loud, and of course Gypsy looked up, and it made her nervous, and she started moving, and I seen the baby. And I ran to the house. I didn't even try to get close or nothing. I ran in the house screaming, she had the baby! She's had the baby! And Mom says, is it a boy or a girl? I said, I don't know! All I know is that she's had it! So then, of course, my whole life revolved around that baby. So I went down and spent the whole rest of the day and following days watching her and just following her and trying to pet her, of course. And I tried to think of a name for that baby, and I hadn't really thought too much ahead of time about a name because, you know, things happen and you don't know if it's going to be alive and all this kind of stuff. So I didn't try to name her ahead of time. And I couldn't think of anything, and I'd say something and it just didn't seem right. It didn't stick. And my mom finally said, she said, the baby's name is Frenzy. And I said, Mom, that's the dumbest name I've ever heard. Nope, that's his name. You ran in the house in such a frenzy when you found out she was here. That's her name. And I rejected it. I said, no, I'm not calling a horse Frenzy. It's dumb. Doesn't make any sense. She said, whatever. And sure enough, it stuck. I just couldn't think of anything else that worked better and ended up calling her Frenzy. And I'm telling you, Frenzy was the exact opposite of her name. She never got in a dither about anything unless it was not wanting to be hooked to a wagon or a surrey to do some work or a pallet that I'd made to a sled for her to pull to haul wood. That's what she'd get upset about and, you know, wouldn't want to be caught. But other than that, shoot, she hardly got in a hurry. She'd trot downhill because she was too lazy to walk. It was easier to trot, and then she'd really crawl going up the next hill. I had to make her run. Oh my goodness. That horse was the love of my life. She was my best friend, even more than her mother. I'm telling you, we were soulmates, this horse and I. I told her so much stuff. She went through so much with me. A guy that I was dating, the first guy I'd actually actually really dated, he made me sell her. He made me load her up in a horse trailer. I hooked up to a horse trailer for the first time in my life ever. By myself, hooked up to it and pulled it to a horse sale, St. James Horse Auction. Rode her through the auction, and the bid was at, I think it was $660. And I knew I was going to get in so much trouble if I didn't sell this horse, because we needed the money, you know, because I had ran away from home with this guy, and, you know, because I knew everything. Yeah, right. Anyway, and we were desperate for money, and I couldn't do it. I said no sale. Rode her back out, took her out to the trailer and loaded her up, and was crying because I knew I'd be in trouble, but I couldn't part with her. I really couldn't. Took her home, and that was a huge fight, and I don't care. To this day, I thank God that he did not let me sell her, that I kept that horse. I kept her till the day she died. I loved her more than I've loved any other animal in my whole life. And she taught me some things. She lived to be 22 years old. I mean, and ironically, I don't know. I make things up like this in my head. I like 11 and 22 is my favorite numbers. You know, 11 twice is 22. I mean, how perfect is that? I was born on November 22nd, 1976, and it's just my favorite numbers. Ask just about anybody, and they can probably tell you that. So, Frenzy died on February 22nd. Was it the 22nd? Or maybe it was February 11th. Oh shoot, you'd think I'd remember that. Anyway, and she was 22 years old, is my point to this. She would have turned 23 May 6th. She was born May 6th. Anyway, at 2:22 in the morning, she had a bad case of colic. I took her to the vet. He did what he did. I drove over 100 miles with her in my trailer, bouncing her. He said, take her on the roughest road you can to help that, you know, oil get through her system and make her pass all that. And I did everything, you know, I thought I could do and that he told me to do, and took her home, and she just continually got worse. And I had been checking her every, half hour, something like that, through the night. And I had gone outside, and I had just looked, you know, at the clock before I walked out the door, and it was 2:25 or so. And I literally walked up to her as she, you know, took her last breath or something. I just say she died at 2:22 because it's just, I just feel that's when it was. And I cried. I sat there and held her head in my lap. She was in the yard. Cried and cried and cried. Petted her. I don't even know how long I was out there. It still makes me cry. It's hard to lose something, you know, she's not one to something. She was like a person to me, but Little River Farm. Little River Farm, if I could talk. And I believe it's right up here around these curves. It's a little ways up the road yet. Hang on. Cute little sign, Little River Farm. Pick your own flowers and farm store. Very nice. There it is up there. She had a nice little farmer's market, you know, type thing where I brought some stuff last year here in October. It was great. Sold some scarves and hats and stuff. Alrighty. I'm gonna sign off so I can get set up here and then hopefully remember to video a little bit of the shearing. So, see you soon.